I'm making this video because I felt compelled to tell my story when it comes to faith. And it's something that I feel more and more people are starting to talk about, with things they agree with, things they disagree with. And I believe that's happening because now people are not as afraid of feeling ashamed or feeling judged for speaking their own truths. And more specifically, I'm talking about people that earn a living, they earn an income through being online and having a social presence. In the past, it was very taboo to talk about these types of things because people would be afraid that maybe it will affect their business, maybe they'll be judged for it by other people. I mean, all of these different reasons. And while they do have their validity, because not everybody's going to agree with everything you say, it does attract more of a truer and genuine type of audience because you are going to be talking about your own experiences, and the people that agree with it are going to be the people that now know you more on a deeper level and can connect with you and respect you and understand you better. And just to be 100% transparent and honest about why I even felt compelled to make this video in the first place, because it's not something I've talked about publicly, but something I've talked with my inner circle, is the fact that I was just watching a video of these two guys. They're in Miami, Florida, and it was kind of like a vlog going through this person in their day and everything that was going on. And they were talking about a story of faith. It kind of came out of nowhere, but kind of a story about religion a little bit and some things that happened. And it made me really think on my story and how I am with religion and faith, etc. And maybe something that I have to say in with my story is something that could help someone else. Because I feel like I have a somewhat interesting story when it comes to faith itself, and I want to share that for the first time here with you today. So, just to start off, I grew up in a middle-class family, and one of the big sacrifices that my family made for me in hopes of me having an amazing future is that they put me in a private Christian school. Now, I should note that my family, we were not a family that went to church every Sunday. We didn't go to church on the Wednesdays. We didn't, go to church. That just wasn't something that we did. And I got put in private Christian school. That's all I knew. I grew up there from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. Now, inside of this school, you're taught about religion. You have to go to chapel every Thursday, where you go there, you sing Christian songs, you hear from a speaker, a pastor, and additionally, you have to take a Bible class in every grade. You are memorizing Bible verses, you are watching movies, you're reading stories, you're doing exercises related to Bible and studying religion and Christianity. And that's all I knew. That's all I was used to. But outside of school, we weren't like a religious or Christian family. Occasionally I would go to church with my grandparents, but it wasn't very often. But in this school, I realized that I was raised pretty sheltered. After 8th grade, my parents decided to move me over to a public high school. Now, I should know that this public high school is a very low-rated high school in the area that I'm from in North Carolina. So after 8th grade, being raised this whole time in this somewhat kind of strict private Christian school, I was then moved into this high school, public high school. And immediately I just realized like how different life really was. I realized what the real world was like, that I had been sheltered. Now, I think there's pros and cons to that, is in terms of education and raising a kid. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But in terms of religion, after I moved to this public high school, I realized that, okay, there's a completely different world out there. I mean, just some things for context. Now I was in a place where the kids I'm around are cursing. They're talking about drugs. They're talking about sex. They're talking about drinking. I mean, all these things that I really didn't know much about, to be honest. I was a very innocent kid coming out of that private Christian school for the most part. And just being around these things, I kind of just turned away completely from the religion thing. After I got out of that school, I was like, okay, great. You know, as a student, you don't want to go to school. You don't want to do all this work and stuff. So I'm like, great. I don't have to memorize Bible verses. I don't have to go to chapel. I don't have to do all this extra schoolwork. Like, in my mind, it was just schoolwork. That's how I thought of the Bible class and religion and these things. Like, there were some stories and things like that I learned of. And now that I look back at it, I think the way that I really, viewed it as was just simply being, this was part of school. And now I didn't have to do that part of school, making my life easier. So from there on, nothing really, I never really did anything related to religion, throughout high school. Occasionally, again, going to church with family, like my grandparents and, certain events, but nothing crazy. I wasn't someone who prayed. I wasn't someone who read the Bible. There was quotes that I would see online, like most people probably see quotes with people and are from, Christian or religion-based quotes, and they connect with it, etc. And there's definitely some of those. But something started to happen after high school. I'm 18 years old. I had started making a little bit of money online. I was documenting everything on my YouTube channel and what was going on and what was working for me. But this is a very different version of me then, because after I had gone from this sheltered kind of private Christian school life to then the complete opposite, I started getting into more of those things as I had my freedoms. The day I turned 18, I moved into my own apartment because I'd been making a little bit of money. I could sign a lease, $2,000 a month, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, these little loft apartments, and that was maybe one of the worst decisions I ever made. And maybe not, because I wouldn't be here right now without it. But essentially what happened was that I now had this freedom that I never had before. And sorry, I just found this weird little paper here. Anyways, I had these freedoms where I could do what I want. I could eat what I want. I could sleep what I want. I could do all these things. I didn't have a job to be at. I didn't have school to be at. So I started getting into things that I had been curious about. Drinking more, smoking weed. Just being completely unhealthy. I had a history of binge eating and that type of thing. So becoming this very unhealthy person is essentially what happened. Now, I know this video is I want to talk about faith, but it's going to make sense shortly, because throughout that time, it became a very difficult period of not knowing what to do. And I spent less than a year in this apartment, in this loft in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, just doing all these things and hanging out with the wrong people and not really making much money, just barely getting by. There was a time even when I couldn't afford rent and I really had to figure something out. They were the apartment complex was kind of threatening me. They put a letter on my door and I was like, shit, I got to figure something out. And I had these thoughts of getting my act together. It was a very kind of dark time. And I don't remember a ton of the specifics, to be honest. Maybe that's my mind by choice, or maybe it's because I was just so fucked up, to be honest, a lot of the time. And what happened with that is I got to a point and I decided, you know what, I need to get out of here. That really became my conclusion. I need to get out of here. And with that conclusion came, hey, I have this little bit amount of money left. I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to go travel to a few different places and see maybe if something sticks. I just need to be around positive people is basically what I had realized, because I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to work a normal job. I wanted to continue what I was doing, but do it in a positive way. And I just didn't know how. And I spent this last little bit of money. I took some risks to basically travel to a few big cities around the country and meet up with people that I had met previously, even that people that I had met over the past couple years from online business stuff, just catching up with them. And it was amazing. I didn't even have time to think about all of this darkness and things that were going on elsewhere. I was just able to be present and be around these people and feel what it was like to on the other side, basically, of what I was dealing with. And that helped me a lot, because I didn't have time to think about these dark things. I didn't have time to be I wasn't putting myself around people where I was just getting all faded, and that helped a lot. But as I then made a decision to move to one of the places that I visited was Arizona, and that helped with the business side. I got to be around more cool people and grow the business a little bit. But then kind of a similar thing happened, as addicts do, maybe, even though I feel like addict is a harsh word. It's that if there's a will, there's a way mindset, more so, is maybe a better way to explain it. I got back into similar things, but more specifically this time, more into smoking. And to kind of summarize this, it came over, that was a 1-2 year period. And then I got to a position where there was an opportunity to move again. And I ended up moving here to Puerto Rico. And it really is an amazing place. But you have to be able to understand that, like, you have to embrace it. You can't just come here and trying to be in your other ways. So one of the things is, like, I want to kind of get in the culture. This culture involves a lot of drinking and partying. And I told myself, you know what, Tanner, I'm going to move there, but I'm not going to smoke weed there. So that actually helped me get rid of smoking. I've never smoked here. But then the drinking part. Here, the drinking age is 18. When I moved here, I was 19 and then turned 20. And so I've been here a few years now. And I started drinking a lot. It became worse than it ever was before. Way worse. And back to this kind of same scenario, but now just on a little bit of a different level. And it kind of came to a point of just again, not knowing what to do, distracting myself with short-term pleasures, and just kind of getting by. Very low standards. And the thing that happened to me that really made the difference, and is why I'm here right now, is because I kind of had this urge, this feeling of just, I need to do better. The things that I thought about often. If I look in the mirror, I take a shower every day, right? I look myself in the mirror, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like where my business is at. I don't like all of these things that I don't like that I see every day, but I was ignoring, were the things that I had to start addressing and start taking action on. Not just praying for saying, you know, God, please help me change my life. No, I had to basically start taking action. And that was my way of praying at that time, is the way I think about it. Because I wasn't just like going to just pray and expect something. You can't just pray and then you lose weight or you feel a million times better. I had to take action, and I feel that was my way of praying, starting to work on these things. And as I started to take it more seriously and make some more drastic changes in my life, I saw that my body was starting to change. I started to feel better. Physically, I started to look better. These are things that I had been self-conscious about nearly my entire life. And I became very grateful for that. My business, I hadn't really made a big breakthrough. I hadn't made major strides in that yet, but I was working on myself, and that felt like something that was beneficial to me. And it was. And the year is 2022 now at this point, and I started the year making more drastic changes personally, and still my business is doing some things. It's okay. And, you know, it got to a point where I just became so dialed in with my physical self that somehow faith kind of slipped back into my life, kind of in an interesting way, where there were just some mornings where I would wake up and immediately my first thought was, thank you, God. In this bedroom in the apartment I lived at the time, when I woke up out of bed, to my left is a window. You could see the beach and the sunrise. And I would wake up like right when the sun was rising. Like I started to wake up more early in the mornings for some reason, right around this time when the sun would rise. And my first immediate thought when I would wake up then is, thank you, God. Now, up until this point, from leaving that private Christian school to, you know, that point there, that is years, 4, 5, 6, 7, a pretty good amount of time. And I couldn't ever figure out why that was. I hadn't been listening to religious podcasts, watching religious videos. I hadn't been reading the Bible. I just felt compelled to these things in my mind. And it wasn't just thinking it in my mind, it was saying it out loud. Waking up, thank you, God. And looking out there at this, like, just feeling an immense wave of, like, just this energy of, wow. Like, I felt like I had woken up as another person. Like, for the first time ever, I felt, like, more alive, actually. And not just, like, kind of slugging through a day and like living this Groundhog Day. I was waking up and feeling, wow, like this is amazing. I can see the sunset. I've woken up for another day, another opportunity to figure this thing out, right? Because I don't have it all figured out. I don't now, but like I have another opportunity here. And that just started happening more. And a few months later, of this like clarity, this newfound clarity that I had a big breakthrough with the business. I mean, we had an idea and concept we had been working on that worked really well, and it's still something that I'm doing today. And it felt kind of funny, like how it all worked out. And over this time period now, over the last 2 years, I still, honestly, being fully transparent, like I still haven't fully found myself as a person that is very religious. I don't go to church. I do pray occasionally. I don't just pray whenever I want something or if I want something to happen. I express my gratitude through action is how I view it still. And I pray when I have conversations. There are times when I have conversations, I feel like, with God, with someone higher up than me. What's helped me kind of transform myself is thinking of this voice in my head. There's always things that I'm telling myself in my head. I think of this as maybe this is God, telling me, oh, Tanner, I should do this or I should do that. If I ignore that voice, if it's, for example, there's food in front of me, I could eat a piece of cake or I could eat an apple. These are the options I have. I know I should probably not eat the cake. But if I eat the cake anyways, I kind of feel like in my mind I'm kind of rejecting and not listening to that higher power that's going to lead me to that best version of myself. So it's an interesting thing. And I've even felt inclined I got a Bible several months ago. To be honest, I haven't really read it. I got a book called Conversations with God. I read it a little bit. It's a little bit of a difficult read for me personally. But while I still feel like I'm not someone that has become, again, maybe a Christian reborn or someone that's going to church and very into these processes, I feel like I have my own version of a connection with God. And that helps me in having faith, because I feel like if you don't have faith in something, it makes it a lot more difficult to keep going in your day-to-day and the things that you're experiencing. I think for me, in these kind of darker times that we've talked about today, I didn't have faith in anything outside of myself, and because of that, it made it harder to be happy or to think positive or to make drastic differences in my life. But I feel like as I kind of had those mornings of like, thank you, God, like wherever that came from, right? I kind of started to have just more of this feeling of there's someone looking out for me, He's got my back. And I'm going to listen to him as best as I can. I'm going to serve him as best as I can. And that's still just kind of where I'm at with it. I feel it's my own version of it. Maybe it's not the most formal. Maybe it's not the best. I'm still not a perfect person. But now I have faith that even in these predicaments, things going on in my life that I feel are affecting me and are difficult things to navigate, I have faith. Not just in myself, but in something outside of me. That, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. God's got my back. And this has helped me a lot for sure. Because I know a few years before, people would ask me, like, Tanner, like, oh, I'm not religious. They're like, you're an atheist? I mean, I believe there's a higher up, like power, but I'm not really religious. But now I feel like I actually have like some form of a connection. Like I have faith in something outside of me. And that helps me keep going. So this is my story of how faith changed my life and kind of the early stage of being my normal in school to then seeing the real world, going out of that, and to then kind of finding it again as I started to become that better version of myself. And I'm very blessed. I'm very happy to be here. And that's my story. Hope you guys have a good day. Peace.